Tom Maloney with Lakeshore Public Radio, 89.1 FM. It's Thursday, August 27th, 2020. Stay tuned for the latest on Whiting Mayor Joe Stahura pleading guilty to wire and tax fraud charges. Governor Eric Holcomb's mask mandate continues, and elementary school teachers have filed a lawsuit following last year's active shooter drill. But first, Whiting Mayor Joe Stahura, 64 years old, has been charged by federal attorneys with wire fraud and tax fraud, and he's agreed to plead guilty to the charges. His wife, Diane Stahura, also 64, has entered into a deferred prosecution agreement wherein she acknowledges the government has enough evidence to charge her with wire fraud. U.S. Attorney Thomas Kirch said today that the elected official of 35 years used $255,000 of his campaign funds between 2014 and 2019 for personal expenditures like gambling, credit card debt, and providing financial support to an adult daughter. Mayor Stahura told the Times that no city money was ever touched, and he plans to resign as mayor in the coming days ahead. He was chairman and treasurer of his campaign committee, and Attorney Kirsch said that Stahura used the money from the committee for personal purposes while disguising the activity by filing campaign reports with false and misleading information. Indiana campaign finance law restricts the use of money contributed to a campaign committee as used for personal expenses are not allowed under the rules. A federal judge in Hammond will review the plea agreement that Stahura made with the U.S. attorney and decide if it will be accepted. Joe Stahura has been Whiting mayor since 2004, and prior to that he served as a Whiting councilman for 20 years. Members of the Valparaiso Democratic Committee say they'll hold a demonstration outside the city's post office on Saturday to show their concerns about the changes proposed by the Postal Service top leadership that affects service and potentially vote by mail this fall. The demonstrators will gather outside the post office on Valparaiso Street at 10 a.m. The Times reports the Valparaiso post office was unaware yesterday of the Saturday demonstration and declined to comment on the proposed gathering. The city of Valparaiso is extending free rides aboard the Chicago-Express bus to Chicago and the South Shore Connect service to and from the Dune Park Station, both through 2020. Mayor Matt Murphy says the rides are excellent opportunities for those who travel into Chicago, and he wants riders to know that they've also added safety measures during the pandemic to keep the buses clean. The city of Valparaiso is following CDC and HHS guidance to protect riders and staff aboard the city's transit services, making each ride as safe and clean as possible. A group of teachers at a Monticello elementary school who were struck and injured last year by plastic pellets during an active shooter training drill are suing local police, accusing them of using excessive force during what the lawsuit calls the execution-style drill. The federal lawsuit was filed last week by 8 teachers who taught at Medellin Elementary School in Monticello at the time of the January 2019 incident. It names as defendants the White County Sheriff's Department, 4 deputies, and the department's current and former sheriff. The suit claims 4 deputies shot at the teachers and subjected them to verbal threats, expletives, as well as screaming. Governor Eric Holcomb is extending the statewide face mask mandate order that he first issued a month ago, aiming at slowing the coronavirus spread. Governor Holcomb announced Wednesday he was keeping the mask mandate in place for another 30 days. He's also extending the state's limits on crowd sizes for restaurants, bars, and public events. Those orders were set to expire late Wednesday. Holcomb said he doesn't want the state's rate of new coronavirus cases to start growing again. Democratic gubernatorial candidate Woody Myers says Indiana should join other states with possible criminal penalties for mask mandate violators. The University of Notre Dame has added security personnel at its COVID-19 quarantine and isolation sites after students were observed leaving the off-campus apartments and hotels in violation of safety protocols. University spokesman Dennis Brown says the students under quarantine agreed to a code of conduct requiring them to remain in their designated rooms. Brown says the university has contracted for 8 security people to monitor the quarantine sites around the clock. He says students who don't adhere to the code of conduct will face sanctions that could include dismissal. In-person classes for Notre Dame's 12,000 students began August 10th. 8 days later, the university moved classes online for 2 weeks after confirmed COVID-19 cases spiked. The only Native American on federal death row has been executed in Indiana. Lesmond Mitchell's execution Wednesday at the federal prison in Terre Haute came despite objections from many Navajo leaders who had urged President Donald Trump to halt the lethal injection on the grounds it would violate tribal culture and sovereignty. Mitchell was condemned for the grisly slayings of 9-year-old Tiffany Lee and her 63-year-old grandmother Alice Slim in 2001 on the Navajo Nation in northeastern Arizona. The federal government, under the pro-death penalty president, has now carried out more executions in 2020 than it had in the previous 56 years combined. In sports, the Cubs and White Sox are off tonight. The Cubs lost last night's rubber match against the Detroit Tigers. The loss moves them to 18-12, still in first place in the NL Central. They'll travel to Cincinnati tomorrow night to play the Reds. The White Sox took both games of the short series against the Pittsburgh Pirates. At 19-12, the Sox are tied for second place in the AL Central with the Cleveland Indians, both a half game back from the first place Minnesota Twins. The Sox host last place Kansas City tomorrow night. In the NHL, Blackhawks forward Dominik Kubalik is eligible for restricted free agency after he led NHL rookies with 30 goals this year. He also had 16 assists in 68 games, making a smooth transition to Chicago after playing in Switzerland the previous season. Negotiations between Kubalik's representation and the Blackhawks could be tricky. The 6'2" winger turned 25 last week, and his breakout performance in his only year in the league makes for an unusual case. Kubalik says, though, he has not thought about free agency just yet. A person with knowledge of the situation says NBA players have decided Thursday that they want to continue the season, coming to that consensus one day after 3 postseason games were postponed in a protest of racial injustice. It was not clear yet when the season would resume, according to the person that spoke to the Associated Press on the condition of anonymity, because neither the league nor the NBA Players Association has announced anything publicly. The NBA's board of directors were meeting separately Thursday to decide next steps. Looking at your lakeshore weather forecast, tonight a 30% chance of showers and thunderstorms, mainly before midnight, otherwise partly cloudy, a low near 72. Friday, a 30% chance of showers and thunderstorms, mainly after 4 o'clock, otherwise mostly sunny, a high near 90, though the heat index up to 97 degrees, with wind gusts up to 20 miles an hour. Friday night, under the lights, an 80% chance of showers and thunderstorms with a low near 67. Saturday, a 30% chance of showers before 7 a.m., otherwise mostly sunny, a high near 77 with wind gusts up to 20 miles an hour. And Sunday, sunny skies, a high near 76. For Lakeshore Public Radio, I'm Tom Maloney. This has been your Midday News Update. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to share.